What up racer, it's Jerone here, and once again welcome back to another League Racing video. Today it is time once again for AOR, and this is the 7th round of the season around the beautiful track that is called Silverstone. I absolutely love driving this track, and it's probably also one of my best tracks on the game. And coming into this race, I think I also had one of my best setups I made on this game yet. So I was really excited to start this race, and as you can probably tell by the length of the video, it's quite an exciting one. If you did not see the previous video around Austria, then I would recommend you go check that one out first, because it will be spoiled in 5 seconds if you don't click off the video now. During that race I would have finished in 2nd place if I hadn't got any time penalties, and I thought I would finish in P3, but actually Solid Ninja managed to get one of his 5-second penalties removed, and in the end he managed to go up to 2nd place, and that's also where he is in the standings right now, with only about 10 points behind. So he's probably my biggest title rival at this moment, but of course it's still quite tight behind, so everyone realistically can still challenge me for the title. Looking at qualifying now, it's dry in qualifying, and towards the end of the race there will be a bit of rain. I did a 26.8 as a banker on softs, and we're preparing our final lap now, as I get a bit of an oversteer moment at the start of the lap, which is not great because you will carry the speed you get from that exit all the way down the straight through Abbey into the village section, and braking at the curb on the left hand side here, you can see I'm already half a tenth down heading into the braking zone, which is not great. But I actually take the village section quite well, and coming onto the first DRS straight, we're already about 0.7 up on the previous lap. Then heading into Brooklands and Lovefield, you want to stay as close to the left hand side as possible. And then for Lovefield, I think I ran a bit too wide, and on the power I got a little oversteer moment, but overall it's not too bad, as I still gained a little bit of time. Stay as close to the right hand side as possible, because you want to minimize the track distance. You can do cops completely flat, but I think I did a little safety lift there whilst keeping it in 8th gear. Then Maggots, Beckets and Chapel. You can run on the grass on this exit here. I think I did a little bit too much actually, got a bit out of shape through there, which is not optimal. Then picking up a bit of slipstream from one of the cars ahead, heading into Stowe. You ideally want to take it in 6th gear, but I felt like I need a little bit more rotation, and you can see the braking marker on the right hand side for the 100 meters is gone, and I use that as a reference, and in the end I completely messed up the final sector. So I'm ultimately dependent on what the rest does with regards to my starting position for this race, and you can see both Marcus and Rally Monster improve, and in the end it's Marcus on pole, then Rally Monster in 2nd, and I finish in 3rd. To be honest, it's completely my own fault for using that 100 meter boards on the right hand side as a reference, as I could also use the curb on the right hand side, but it is how it is, and we live and we learn, and next time I won't use something that can be broken as a reference. Anyways, we're of course heading into the race now and lowering the fuel load a bit, and of course it will be interesting to see when the rain will come and how severe the rain will be, because if you didn't see my FRL video, as we're cutting onto that video now actually, I did a bit of a strategic gamble there, and the rain came down really slowly, and it turned out that slicks would actually be very strong. Something I also learned from that race is that you shouldn't run a low brake bias heading into the first turns of the race, because there's definitely a possibility that it can spin you out. Anyways, we're looking at the grid and we're just seeing which tires everyone's choosing outside of the top 10, and I'm pretty sure everyone went for mediums, as we currently have the 5 red lights, starting from 3rd place with the Haas in front of me and the Red Bull to my side, and it's quite an even start for the whole top 4, as someone actually tried to somewhat send it around my outside, and I decided to take the inside line for turn 1, a little bit conservative maybe, as I now have the other Red Bull of Sastar down my inside, so we have to leave the space. Then heading onto the first straight, it's quite risky. I kept it in overtake there as we make a little bit of contact on the straight, but no harm's done as he's still on my inside in Brooklands, but then I get the inside for Lovefield, and in the end I managed to hold on to third position here at the start of the race. So top 4 stayed the same. Then I'm actually not sure where Cronexus came from, whether he started P5 or not, as I have a really poor cops for the first time this race. And as you can see, Sastar was definitely thinking about it, but I just used so much ERS that it would have been quite risky for him, and also very awkward for both of us if he had tried to make a move there. On top of that, we probably would have lost the DRS to the cars ahead, so I'm glad that Saz didn't go for that move, because staying in the DRS zone is so extremely important around here. Without DRS you will just lose a couple of tenths every lap, because if you're in the DRS train you can save the DRS and you can sort of switch positions every now and then and collectively use the ERS, whereas if you're driving on your own you sort of have to create your own race pace there, whilst you cannot save any ERS, as on the second lap here heading into Brooklands missed my apex for the left-hander a little bit, and Saz was having a little look, but in the end the inside line for Lovefield is often key unless you have fresher tires and you can send it around the outside. Then also here on lap 3 I'm making quite a few mistakes here in these opening laps, and I said to myself I should probably start driving better now, as once again Saz got a little bit of a switchback on me, and I have to once again defend my position a bit, as once again I ran a bit deep here in Brooklands. So overall this definitely wasn't one of my best starts to a race, but somehow I definitely made mistakes, but my mistakes were not massive enough to open up a real opportunity for Sastar to make an overtake. But I definitely shouldn't do this for the whole first stint, because it will drain my battery quite significantly. As you can see, Rally Monster had really close to Marcus, and he's lining up a move, as I'm already down to 50% of my battery on lap 3, which is not optimal, but that's once again due to all the mistakes I was making. Had to use quite a lot of ERS, as Rally Monster and Marcus go side by side through Stowe, and Rally Monster gets the move done, as I defend the inside a little bit because I don't want Sastar slipping through. As we see Marcus having a little oversteer moment there, heading onto lap 4, and behind me it's Sastar, a tenth behind, and I actually opt not to defend here, so he can go down my inside, but I do defend the cutback for this turn leading onto straight again, and in the end he wasn't close enough to do anything. And I think from here, from lap 4, lap 5 onward, we sort of settled in a rhythm, and on the minimap, as you can see, we as a top 5 have broken free from the rest of the pack, which is good of course, because we want to get as much space between us and those who started on the mediums, and that's of course working when the DRS has been broken. As for now, cutting on to lap 8, nothing really happened, and I think Bankai and Ferrari in front was having a bit of a horrible time, and we're already about to lap him, so that's why there are blue flags. And I think this was carrying all of us along. As you could see, the red light from Marcus was flashing there for a brief moment, and he actually decides to pit already on lap 8, and look behind who follows as well. It's also Sastar, who's already in the pit lane, which I was not quite expecting at this stage. I think my ideal pit lap was lap 10. But of course, if you want to get an undercut done, and track position is quite influential around here, then going for lap 8 or perhaps lap 9 isn't that bad of an idea. So due to the gap that opened up by Marcus pitting, I had to push a little bit to make sure I stayed within the DRS of Rally Monster. And that is exactly what we're doing now, as we are, I think, both getting carried along by Bankai a little bit, who is of course on fresher tires after his... I'm not sure what happened, but I would assume he had too little incidents, because otherwise you're not 1 minute and 30 behind, basically. Just checking the weather forecast, and it's 10 to 15 minutes now, so I'm definitely not gonna make it on softs towards the rain period. Perhaps that's also why Marcus and Sestar were pitting earlier, not only the undercut, but also to optimize the grip on both medium and soft compound tires. As on this lap I of course closed in quite a lot on Rally Monster, and you can see lap 9 he also decides to come into the pit lane, so basically all my rivals in this race went earlier than my ideal pit lap. So because everyone was in already, I decided to actually extend my stint and go for 2 more laps, as now heading into village I do make quite a big mistake here. This is my biggest mistake of the race, and if I had tried to keep the same braking potential, I probably would have spun and decided to take the escape road and rejoin the track that way. So as I said, I was extending for 2 extra laps relative to Rally Monster, and you can see I had quite a lot of ERS saved, and in the top right I'm basically doing the same lap time as my personal best, so it's quite a good in-lap. Of course that previous lap was quite a bit worse due to that mistake you just witnessed. And coming into the pit lane, you want to brake a bit before that Stewart on the right hand side there and slow down nicely, and you can see tires definitely need some replacement now at this stage. So getting onto mediums, and you can see on the minimap Rally Monster's got a bit of a gap to Sestar, Marcus and Cronexus, and I come out just behind Sestar and Marcus is down my outside. He tried to have a little look, and I do leave the space for the inside here, but overall he didn't have the superior tire grip and wasn't far enough alongside to make a move work. So in the end I do think this can be called a successful overcut, because Sestar went 3 laps earlier, Marcus went also 3 laps earlier, Cronexus went 2 laps earlier than me, and Rally Monster went 2 laps earlier than me, but Rally Monster has pulled out quite a big of a gap. He's now 2.4 ahead, and he's also on a 5-second penalty, so he probably sped going into the pit lane. And once again, notice that red light flashing there from Sestar, which means he is below 10% ERS at this point, whereas I'm somewhere around 60%. So I knew at this stage that I definitely had quite a significant ERS advantage over Sestar. Of course, it's interesting to note that we're currently P6 in this race, and in about 10 minutes time rain will fall, and look there on the right hand side, it's Rally Monster making a bit of a mistake, and he now drops, or he loses his 2.5 second lead, and he drops 0.7 seconds behind me as well. Rally Monster and Cronexus will battle here going into Brooklands and Lovefield, and Cronexus will actually get the better of him, as we're now cutting onto a virtual safety car that came out, not exactly sure what for, but you can see in the pit lane one of the McLarens who started on mediums is pitting, and I was quite happy with that, because I thought everyone who started on mediums would probably try to extend their stint until when the rain would come down. So I lost a bit of ground to Sestar on this restart, and also more importantly Cronexus, Rally Monster and Marcus all lost a bit of ground to both me and Sestar as well. So the DRS train has been broken once again. But as I was saying, currently P5 in this race, and everyone on mediums is still staying out except Zach, who's in the McLaren, and you can see he comes out right behind me, so he gained massively under this virtual safety car, and he's now on fresh softs right behind us. So there are many different strategies going on at this stage. We don't know how hard, how severely it will rain. And we also don't know which strategies the medium runners are planning, as I once again braked a little bit late for Brooklands, and you can see Zach is all over me. He of course wants to get past as early as possible, and of course I'm still on like 90% ERS. I had been saving quite a bit behind Sastar, and also that virtual safety car of course helped quite a bit with saving up to basically a full battery again, as we're now going through Maggots and Beckett's. And at this stage I have to get past Sastar because I want to have a buffer between me and Zach, and I want to be the lead car. So I'm gonna make a move, use the ERS, use DRS and a little bit of slipstream, and I managed to get ahead before we even go into Stowe. And ideally I would have liked Sastar to defend a little bit harder, but you can see Zach is going down the inside of Sastar, and I was scared a little bit that he might have overshot the corner, which he didn't. So at this stage we can see AVT Pasty in the pit lane, so that's another medium runner that's pitting, and I'm pretty sure I must have missed someone else going into the pit lane as well on the previous lap, because we're now in second place in the race, and the only medium runner that has stayed out so far is Solid Ninja, and I can confirm he won't pit until the rain, as I have now to defend. Going into Brooklands, Zach is going for it, and here you can just tell his tire grip on those softs is absolutely superior to mine. He makes me look like a mobile chicane, like I'm not even there, and he manages to get the move done on me. And this is an important phase now, because I will have to try and stay with Zach and make sure I don't lose DRS to him, because it could be crucial for the rest of the race, as we're now looking at a replay shot from the helicopter cam, and I tried to defend it, but Zach just had so much superior grip and got past easily. So we're now skipping a lap ahead and managed to stay within 5/10 as I get my first warning of this race on lap 17. And you can see there's another back marker in front of us. It's Pyro in the Mercedes, and that means that both me and Zach will get DRSs. In the meanwhile, we have dropped Sastar out of our DRS range, which is crucial because now both me and Zach can escape from that Red Bull driver. In fact, from both Red Bull drivers. And we're now going into a bit of a time lapse, because you can see actually there the Mercedes letting us both past, and also I got my second warning of the race there in Maggots and Beckett's, which is not optimal because now I have to be quite careful, and it was so tough here to keep up with Zach. You can see my battery, I've literally drained it all the way to 10%. You don't want to go below like 6 or 7% ideally, because that's when you really start to lose power. And I just had to do it. I had to basically drain the ERS coming onto every DRS detection point. You can see I still get it for this straight, but then here on lap 20 heading into Cops Corner, you can see I'm once again 8%, and I'm gonna use all the ERS I have on the exit because the DRS detection point is right here before Maggots, and you can see I just about don't get it. I'm literally 1.001, and that's of course not within 1 second, so it was only lap 20 that I'd lost the DRS, but you can see Rally Monster and Sastar are now 5 seconds behind. That's how much I gained by staying in the DRS of Zach. So I had quite a comfortable lead over everyone who was on the same strategy as me. And you can now also see the rain is starting on lap 21. And I knew at this stage Solid Ninja had made the right call. Even during qualifying I realized I had probably made a bit of a mistake by not aiming to start on the medium compound tire, as it's now lap 21, 4.5 more laps to go, and you could see on the split we were 1.5 seconds down on our best time, so I didn't think it was quite time for Intershed, but you can see a strategy option has popped up on the MFD, and that was just as I was passing the pit lane entry. So thanks Jeff for reporting me of this situation so late, because I couldn't make the call anymore. As you can see, Sastar has continued, but Solid Ninja went into pit lane for inters, and so did Rally Monster. It was quite a gamble from Solid Ninja actually to already go into the pit lane, because he was the first car to pass the pit lane. He was even 6 seconds ahead of me. But I think he might have made the right call here, because usually when Jeff says something, it really means it's time for inters. As you could also see on the top right there, 3.7 seconds down on my delta in this first sector. We're literally crawling now, and you can see I make another mistake as well, and the game actually gives me a 3-second time penalty for it, for going off track there. As in the meanwhile, Zach has DNF'd. He probably lost it on the traction and put it into the wall on the old pit straight, and that means that a safety car is being called out, and I think I'm very fortunate with the fact that the safety car was called out here. I think it would have been extremely tight on the pit exit otherwise, between me, Sastar and Rally Monster. But of course, due to the fact that the safety car's here, I could come into the pit lane. I actually just realized Sastar was also still out on slick tires, so it would have been tight between only me and Rally Monster. But still, it doesn't take away from the fact that I think it was quite lucky that this safety car was called out here. And at this stage, I was still thinking I'm driving with 2 warnings, because that was such a BS warning, because I just lost it in quite tricky conditions. I lifted off completely, and I definitely didn't gain time there by going off track. So I'm pretty sure I could get that 3rd warning removed at this stage. So once again, we have a 2-lap sprint at the end of the race, as Solid decides to go here, coming off of Stowe Corner, and he kind of got me napping there, because he already has a 7/10 gap. And yeah, I don't know what it is with me in safety car restarts, and I just don't seem to be very good at them. And fortunately for me, Sastar also wasn't quite on it, and essentially I have a 1-second gap to both cars right now. So at this stage, I just wanted to see who had a good setup for both the dry and the rain, and I can confirm in the end, I don't think it's really mattered too much. I feel like I had a little bit more pace than Solid, but once again, I don't know what his pace in the dry was, or would have been, because I was never close to him, so I never really got an idea. And of course I want to not get any more warnings during this race, because I want to get my 3-second time penalty removed. And coming onto the last lap, last sector, and we're 7/10 behind Solid going into Stowe, so obviously I won't be able to make a move for the lead of the race. And I'm gonna cross the line in 2nd place here, with my championship rival, Solid Ninja, winning this race, and even without practice, he said. So he got the right strategy, made the right calls, and he won this race. So GG's to him. On track, I finished 2nd, then Sastar in 3rd, and Rally Monster in 4th. Once again, Silverstone provided an absolutely beautiful racetrack here. I really enjoyed this race. I think we all had a lot of fun, especially in the top 5, or everyone who started in the top 5 on soft compound tires. And you can see here, I'm not going over to the race director yet, and at this stage I'm hearing that the timer is running down, and I failed to capture my race director. That's not optimal, because as you can see here, for a warning to be removed, it is required to provide an image or footage of the race director showing the full overview of warnings you received throughout the race. I failed to do that, but I still handed in a steward's report and just sped up the video from the point where I got my 3-second time penalty until the end. And I'm not sure what's gonna happen. The report has been moved by this tier's coordinator to the head steward, so it hasn't been rejected there. So I'm not sure what's gonna happen. Personally, I don't have a lot of faith in it getting removed because I think the AOR stewards are quite strict when it comes to their own regulations. So realistically, I don't expect my 3-second time penalty to be removed, but I really hope it will be because I think I deserve to finish P2 in this race here. I guess it also shows that you should be concentrated until the race is finished, and in this case, until you captured the race director. I was just looking on my phone, chatting, and yeah, chat shit get banged really. Overall though, I absolutely loved driving at this venue. I think this was the best race we had in this tier so far. Perhaps Bahrain can be considered as well, but Silverstone always produces good racing, so I really had a lot of fun. Anyways, I hope to see you for the next one, and bye bye. See ya.